Good morning, Adam. Welcome to Informed Choice Radio. We're talking today about wealth planning for business owners, which is the subject of a new book you've written. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself first, though. So tell our listeners and viewers a bit about you, who you are, what you do, where you've come from, all that good stuff.
Yeah, no problem. Great to be on the show. My name is Adam Carolan. My official title is Head of Client Relationships at Zentum, and I'm also a co-founder of Next Gen Planners. But at heart, really, I'm a financial planner. So I'm obsessive about helping clients with their financial planning. I've been in the industry about 15, 16 years now. I've pretty much done every job in the industry, and my specialism is working with clients that are exiting businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you and I both have a fairly similar journey in that we did business degrees. We did a bit of sort of insurance company, broker
Yeah,
consultant type work, joined our financial planning firms, and we had other business interests too. And we're both chartered financial planners, both fellows of the Personal Finance Society. So you
yeah.
are at the very sort of pinnacle of professional qualification too, and that's important to you, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's kind of like when you pass your driving test, isn't it? You do your exams and then
Yeah.
you get thrown into the deep end, and that's where you really learn all the stuff.
And you've written a book, so you've taken a lot of this experience and knowledge you've had, and you've condensed it into a book. So tell us a bit about the book.
Yeah, so the book isn't just about my professional journey, it's about my personal journey as well. So, what happened to me, unfortunately, was about 6 or 7 years into being a financial planner, my father passed away when I was 21. And what happened is we finally got around to looking at all the paperwork 6 or 7 years after he passed, and it was just an absolute disaster. So, fortunately for me, he'd written everything down, but he hadn't actually done any financial planning. He was a very successful business owner. So he had, it was a multi-million pound business empire that almost through no financial planning, when he passed away, went to hundreds of thousands. So what I
Goodness.
got to see from a personal perspective is just that impact of not having a financial plan as a business owner. And I think the reason I've written it is my experience with business owners is that their financial planning should be a bit different. They've got very complex finances. They've often got a lot of spinning plates. And let's be honest, it's very difficult once you've done all the zero reconciliation, done all the bookkeeping and everything, to then go into your personal life and say, I've got to do it all again. So that's kind of why I've written it.
Yeah, and that's obviously it's a common scenario we see. Sadly, a common scenario we see, which is people in their business lives, but also in their personal lives, having things everywhere. And it is sadly when they pass away that you have the impacts on the family and people who are dealing
Yeah.
with the estate, trying to go through drawers and boxes of paperwork and make sense of it all. But how common is that? I mean, you've seen it in other examples too.
Yeah, I mean, it's when I speak to business owners when we meet them for the first time, and there's no judgment here, but usually the personal finances are an absolute disaster. So I call it like the two circles principle in the book. So imagine you've got two circles. On the left, you've got maybe the business circle. On the right, you've got the personal circle. Pretty much all your energy, time, and focus is gone on building up that business circle, and
Yeah.
you neglect the personal circle. So all we're trying to do is say, look, you've got some really good skills and mindsets over here in the business circle. Why can't we transfer some of those skills and mindsets over here? It doesn't have to take much time, but you have to start somewhere, don't you? And I think the thing that we're looking to do, and I'm looking to do, is just try and get them to think more, take the business hat off for maybe an hour or two and say, okay, well, what about over here? So I
Right.
think, yeah, I've seen a lot of disasters. I've seen some, you'll have seen it as well. It's just the cardboard boxes, the spreadsheets everywhere, the pension paperwork that's not been looked at for 15, 20 years. We see it all as financial planners, don't we?
Yeah, for me, it's always the clients that show up in the meeting room with carrier bags full of paperwork, and then it's making sense of those companies. And they show you the policy statements and things, and you think, yeah, I remember the name of that insurance company, but it doesn't exist anymore. Who bought them, and what do they go under now? And then trying to trace it. We're almost like detectives, aren't we?
Yeah, that's a big part of working with business owners is trying to organise their financial life is a massive value add for them.
Yeah, and then this sort of interplay between, as you say, you call it the two circles principle, but the connection between their personal life and their business life, and
Yeah.
how separate are the two, or are they interconnected?
Well, I think we're guilty as a profession of just looking at that personal finance circle. And, most of the time when you're dealing with business owners, their biggest asset is the business. So I'm a big believer that you've got to integrate the two. So
Right.
when you're doing your financial planning, you've got to be forecasting scenarios with the business that relate to their personal lives, and it might not just be exit planning, it might be how much income you're taking from the business. It has to be all on the same page. I think we're guilty, and I've seen it too often, to say, look, what can you put into your personal pensions? What can you put into your ISAs? And
Yeah.
for a business owner, they just gloss over because you're missing their biggest asset.
Yeah, biggest asset, and I guess biggest income generator too for for
Correct.
most of them. So yeah, we can think about the pension and what that might provide in retirement, but actually the capital value of the business or the income that it generates if it's an ongoing concern is likely to dwarf many pension pots.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So we can maybe move on and talk about exit planning in a second and sort of understand your number. But on a sort of day to day basis, when a business is a going concern, what are some of the sort of tips we're thinking about, things we're thinking about from a financial planning perspective?
Yeah, so I don't often get into the business planning, but I do work with business owners that surround themselves with good people in business planning. But just your day-to-day stuff like knowing your business numbers, having a business plan, I think is absolutely crucial. A cash flow forecast. So, I don't work with business owners now unless they have a lot of these things because it just
Right.
becomes really difficult. But just I think one of the most useful exercises any business owner listening to this can go through actually is to do a thing called a pitch deck. So
Yep.
we would have all heard of and Dragon's Den doing these pitch decks, but just the actual exercise of going through and putting all your data onto 5 or 6 pages is actually a really useful exercise, and it just keeps you really focused on what's bringing the money in, what's losing your money, and are you profitable, are you going in the right direction. So just that single exercise is just extremely useful for a lot of business owners.
So this isn't sort of a 120-page business plan with a pest analysis and a SWOT
No.
analysis and stuff. This is simple, to the point, what the business is about.
Yeah, and I've worked with a lot of clients who have taken investment, and none of the investment companies want that 120-page plan. They just want 5 or 6 really direct. Tell me what your business does. Tell me what your key differentiators are. And what are your numbers looking like, and what's the future going to be. Keeping it as simple as that. And it's almost the same for personal planning, isn't it? You kind of using the same kind of skill to say, right, okay, once you've done it over there for the business, let's try and take that same kind of methodology and put it over here for the personal. So I think just the one tip I'd give is just simplifying things, specifically for business owners. It's just so much complexity and noise. Just try and keep things really simple.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the purpose of a business, I guess, on a day-to-day basis, about generating income for the business owner, generating a return for the shareholder. But is there more if we're thinking about how we build value into a business longer term and ultimately selling it? I mean, that's often the exit. You either tell me maybe tell me about that first. What are the options for businesses long term? What happens to them?
Well, I think before we get onto that question, I think we need to go back a step. So, what another massive mistake I see a lot of business owners make is not have their business plan on the same page as their personal plan. So,
Right.
one of the first things I ask a business owner when I meet them, so how much do you think your business is worth, and how much do you think you want to sell it for?
Mm,
It might be worth 4 million, and I want to sell it for 10 million. Always round numbers. And then
yes. Yeah.
the second question is, okay, well, what's that 10 million based on? Well, I don't quite know. Okay, so let's dig into that a bit. Okay, what's that 10 million going to get you on the other side? And when you actually dig into it, they don't need often 10 million pounds. They need a financial plan that tells them, what they need to sell the business for. So the way we flip it is we go and do the life plan and the financial plan, and that should really generate either a timeline, a number, or an income, or all three.
Mm,
And then what should happen is a good business owners would plug that kind of plan into their business plan and say, look, I need to do this in the next 3 to 5 years to meet my financial plan. So, what I see a lot of business owners doing is the wrong way around, and say
yeah.
that I need to grow the business to this level. And the question I'll always ask is, well, what for?
Mm. Yeah, no, and it's an important question. So it's about starting with your personal goals. Yeah, how much you need, your number, and what actually you're going to do with that. What, you know, the purpose behind that number, and then translating it into the business goals. It's getting it the right way round.
Yeah, and then what does life look like when you talk
Mm,
about exiting business? What does life look like? You're going on the golf course. A lot of people don't want. So I have a lot of conversations with business owners about they are scared of selling their business because they don't want to not have something to do in the week.
yeah.
Okay, it's a real big issue for a lot of business owners. So they imagine you've worked for 15, 20 years and you've got up, you've done the same routine, and then you sell your business. There's a lot of fear on the other side. It's like, well, what do I do now? What's my purpose in life? So you need to kind of have that nailed down before you exit your business, because
Mm,
you're going to get to this position where someone, if you get to a great position where someone's offering this money for the business, and I've seen it time and time again, and you're not comfortable about what life looks on the other side, you're not going to sign that. You're not going to sign that paperwork. It's
no,
just
so
there's a lot of fear
it's
involved.
going to scupper the deal effectively, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because you're not going to have that confidence to take the money and then live your next stage of your life. So
correct.
it's funny, isn't it, that, you know, when we think about selling a business, when we think about personal financial planning, we don't automatically think about how we spend our time. We think about the numbers. Do
Yeah.
you get that when you speak to your business owner clients?
Absolutely. I think the number is crucial, but time is the most important commodity. It just is. So, I've dealt with a lot of business owners that go into this depression after selling the business because they've just got no purpose in life. So, it just becomes really difficult. But if you're really clear on what you want to do, so, we'll often ask them to go and speak to other business owners about what life was like when they sold the business, and then also get some ideas. A lot of them reinvest into other businesses to
Yeah.
get an idea. A lot of them do consultancy, but just having those options, so you're not sat around doing nothing, because no business owner wants to be in that position. They want flexibility and freedom,
Mm.
which is great to do what they want to do, but they don't want to have no purpose.
No, no, it's a difficult balance to strike between the two, isn't it? Having that flexibility and freedom, but also having, I guess, a degree of structure that gives you that purpose, and trying
Yeah.
to balance the two. It's refreshing to hear you, Adam, talking about, painting a number on a value of a business based on what the person wants and needs, rather than these traditional things we hear about, like multiples of recurring revenue or EBITDA and all those other sort of technical accounting figures. So what do you find in your experience is the gap between what someone thinks a business is worth, and once you've been through their personal financial planning, what the business needs to be worth?
Um, there can be gaps both ways, actually. So I've found that a lot of times business owners won't recognize the value that their business is worth today.
Right?
So, they've never thought about it. What if we took it to market? It'd probably be worth this. Um, but there's also some gaps to say, look, you need to get your business to this level. And what we try and do is surround them with good good professionals that specialize in that. So I don't specialize in helping a business grow from 3 to 5 million. I can tell the business owner that they probably need to get 5 million or whatever it is out of the deal,
Mm,
which is great to live the life they want to. But they need people to help them, and that would be the team. You're seeing a big trend of employee ownership. You're seeing a big trend of corporate finance professionals actually understanding the financial planning bit, which is interesting and
mm,
refreshing. But you all have to be on the same page. So, what we don't want is a business owner who's frustrated and stuck in the business when they could be out doing things that they want to do.
yeah.
So I think from that perspective, what I'll try to do is surround them with a really good corporate finance person or a business planner fairly early on the journey. Um, but I'm actually finding a lot of the conversations right now are, you've actually got, what you need right now, and you
Yep.
don't have to do much work to get there. You have to tidy your business up, basically.
Mm. And I guess, a similar realization when we work with retirement planning clients, and they say, "I want to retire. Can I afford to?" And they're shocked and surprised when they discover they've got enough already. You talk about this sort of team of advisors, and I think from a traditional sense, a business owner might have, well, they'll have an accountant, they might have a solicitor they go to occasionally for the legal stuff. Hopefully, they'll have a financial planner for their personal side. But who are these advisors? Are they accountants, or is there sort of another profession that we're not aware of?
No, you've got corporate finance advisors. So good ones are always having conversations with business owners about, what the business is worth, what they can potentially sell it for. So that's useful. You might have investors who are part of your team. So, it's not always easy to take investment, but if you get the right investors, they're very good to have in your business
Mm.
because they sit on your board. They give you, benchmarks, what other businesses are doing and hopefully good advice. Having good professionals around you is, as you know, is absolutely priceless. Having people that tell you honest and frank advice at every step of the turn is crucial. And you know, I always talk about advice rather than solutions. So
Right.
you want people who say, "We think this is a good idea. We think this is a bad idea." We don't want people that say, "Well, what about if you invest in this tax scheme? You can save a load of
Mm.
tax." So one of the first jobs that I have is to kind of get rid of those like solution led people, get rid of the reactive people,
Mm.
and get the proactive people involved, and say, this team together has got good experience of helping business owners sell businesses. They know it day in, day out. So I'll work with, say, 3 to 4 different solicitors. I'll work with three to four different accountants and maybe 3 corporate finance advisors, and I trust them to know what they're doing, and they trust me to know what I'm doing. But I
Yeah.
think I think you're right. I think a lot of business underestimate the value of a financial planner in that
Mm.
relationship.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. So, and this is fascinating stuff. I hope hopefully useful for any business owners who are listening to us or watching us on YouTube. But taking us back to sort of the first steps, somebody's listening to this conversation, watching this conversation. They're a business owner and they think, okay, I need to approach it this way, the way that Adam's describing. So, where do they get started?
Basically, I wrote a really simple framework in my book. So I split it into 4 sections. So the first section is life planning. So that's your bigger vision. I'll talk about something else in a minute called values, but that's what you want to do with your life. Your goals and objectives. I like the idea of putting timelines and deadlines on those objectives. And then once you've done that, you've got the financial planning piece, which is look where are your finances right now. So just a simple thing like putting all your just doing a simple net worth statement, an asset statement would be my first step, and just
Mm.
not even getting your paperwork together, just getting an idea on one piece of paper where you are as a family financially. The business planning thing is probably separate, but obviously making sure you have a business plan in your business, getting an accountant or a tax advisor to help you with that business plan if you don't have one. I mean,
Yeah.
it's fairly easy now because you've got Zero, you can put
Yeah.
budgets in and do all that. And then the last thing that a lot of business owners forget about, which I saw personally, was the risk planning. Okay,
Yeah.
basically what's the worst that can happen, what are the stakes? And with business owners, the stakes are incredibly high because a lot of their human capital and value is usually in the business.
Mm.
So a lot of business owners underestimate them. So just follow that framework. Just follow. And I built a thing called a one-page plan where you can just put that all on one page, but just like you'd run a business. So I came across a lot of business owners a few years ago that were using the traction framework for the business.
Yeah.
And you can use a very similar framework for your personal finances, which is, look, what's our bigger goals? What are the issues that we need to solve, and what are the 3 priorities for this quarter? And if you just use that really simple framework for your whole life,
Mm.
it just works perfectly.
Yeah. And it is about keeping it simple. He wants to come back to values as well. Some importance of values in this.
Yeah, so values. So I'm a big believer of values-based financial planning, and the way that I see it is, every successful business, has these core values. Okay, so you have Netflix that have core values, that have all these firms that they hire, they fire, and they do everything based on these core values. And I argue that really a family should have core values to
Mm.
help them make key financial decisions. So, a core value for you or me might be security or freedom or flexibility. So, therefore, if you're making a key financial decision, always having those values in front of you and saying, am I making that based on my value, or is it going away from my value? And what I find is once you have those values nailed down in front of you, you start making better financial decisions and moving towards something that you want to do. So again, it's just bringing that business discipline into your personal family finances, because it works. I mean, we all know businesses that live and die by the values, and there's a lot of science behind it and a lot of evidence behind, why companies have core values.
Yeah, absolutely. Adam, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure chatting to you. How do we get hold of a copy of the book? How do we get hold of you? Where do we find you online?
Yeah, so I'm usually on Twitter moaning about something to do with financial services. But yeah, the book's on Amazon. It's $12.99. I think it's pretty good value for a business owner. It gives you all the frameworks you need. I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm also on the Zentum and Next Employers websites.
Wonderful. I'll make sure I put links in the description and in the show notes for this episode as well, so our listeners and viewers can find that nice and easily. Adam, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Martin.